I just wanted to surf, but I love the mountains too. So the dream was if we could mix them all together, how cool would that be?
We have one of the only natural half pipes in all of North America.
Mount Baker was one of the few ski areas really in North America that allowed snowboarding.
Well, this half pipe was awesome. We put the gates up on the walls.
And I just begged Duncan, I said, that's the perfect spot. I'm dreaming about this for years.
Go fast, stay light, and watch 10 feet in front of your board.
Okay, ready to learn how to tune a board? Normally I'd start with the edges and I'd feel for any spots that are rough. And then the terrain at Mount Baker is absolutely wonderful. It's almost comparable to being at a European resort where you have lift access with backcountry features right there within your grasp. And then normally I get it from it's always been the place where you can go to find really progressive snowboarding. They're always producing some of the best snowboarders in the world.
When this ski area evolved back from the 50s to now, we utilize the natural terrain. There's lots of curves and undulations and natural gullies, and all that was left in its pristine state. It's difficult when you look at the ski area from the road to even tell there's a ski area here because it's so much a part of the natural lay of the land. And for snowboarding, that's like a skate park. Basically, it was the original snowboard park in a natural way.
I'd have to say one of the things I like best about it is the remoteness. I love the fact that it's not Disneyland in the mountains. And I love being up here with no power lines, you know, no telephone lines, no resort, no shopping.
I don't want to say it was mythical, but Mount Baker had a sense of presence about it. At places like Tahoe and Breckenridge and New England, well, honestly, none of those places hold a candle to Baker.
When you're up here at night, you know, you don't see any city lights, you don't see any town lights. You can hike out for an hour and see the most stars you've ever seen in your life.
The ultimate experience in snowboarding really is a deep powder day. And getting the most snow of any ski area in North America on a consistent basis brought a lot of snowboarders here just for that fact because, you know, it's like having a perfect wave every day in your backyard.
Well, in January, it's a foot a day. And so, first run Saturday morning was this deep.
I mean, all of the snow is made from the Pacific Ocean moisture. And so we were just surfing in the mountains.
The feel of standing on the top of hemispheres and looking around at just the magnitude and the beauty and appreciation for what this natural environment offers, it's humbling.
The mountain itself is spectacular. In my mind, it can't be beat.
At some point, I don't remember why or how it came up, But the idea came up to do a contest at Baker.
Go.
When you ride a chairlift, you don't have much to do but stay warm and talk. And so we did a lot of talking back in those days. And one of the subject matters was some type of a contest. We wanted to see the sport expand, grow.
Oh yeah, here's a beauty. This one, the Sims Soul Carve. And at that time, Tom Sims was the best racer going. He was a world quote-unquote champion. And when I'd order Sims snowboards, I'd call and talk to Tom Sims.
Well, I was selling snowboards to Bob Barcy, and he'd been trying to talk me into coming up to Mount Baker for a while.
Bob Barcy from the Bike Factory, a couple of other guys got the idea of wanting to put on an event.
And he said, you know, you ought to have a contest up here at Mount Baker. And I said, well, that sounds cool.
My partner and I were doing skateboard contests, and so we knew how to do a contest. And the guys are all sitting around this big old table drinking beer, and they're trying to figure out how to do this. And nobody had a real idea. Well, I had taken the time, like a couple days prior, to write out a progression, just like we did with the skateboard contest. And so I read it off, and they said, Bob, you're it. I said, well, thanks.
They came to my dad, Duncan Howat, who's been the general manager for over 30 years now, and they proposed the idea.
Bob and I have been talking about, you know, doing something with, you know, in a gully or a bank. And I was just thinking of these big super GS turns in a gully.
So I went to Duncan, and I asked him about doing a contest in the half pipe. And he said, sure. The half pipe was a route you took to go to the powder, down these chutes, underneath the twin chairs, and that's where Duncan wanted us to ride.
I see this gully from the chair and I go, oh my gosh, that looks awesome. So I take a run down what is now has been the same course forever. And I said, that's perfect.
Duncan said that he wanted to have it on Super Bowl weekend because that was generally our deadest weekend of the year. And he's, you know, still weren't quite sure how all the skiers and other customers would take, you know, having a snowboard event up here.
So they handed us, you know, a big bundle of poles, and I went, you know, down the run again, and we just stuck in poles where my turns were.
It was called the Sims Challenge. If you could beat Tom Sims, you got his board. That's what the whole deal was. And Tom was like the West Coast hero, and so people wanted to come and meet Tom Sims in person and ride with the guy.
So the bank slalom, when it came up here, we were excited. And all right, this is our territory. We heard Sims was coming up to do it. And of course, we were hoping for soft snow. Our boards had fins on them like surfboards. Come on, Newey!
You know, these guys, I mean, these local guys are thinking they're better than Tom. And some of them pretty damn good riders. But on that day, they weren't good enough.
A lot of those turns on the ice, the fins wouldn't dig in, so it just tracked. And so you see this long nose sketching on like 3 or 4 turns where we had to like lean off the board and do surf laybacks and first just to get the board to work around.
Here comes Sims. Mr. Flow.
In those days, I was still thinking of snowboarding as surfing. So I wanted it to be as similar to surfing as possible. So I was just trying to surf my way down. You know, I'd do a backside turn and then I'd do a front side turn.
Right. Woo! Jesus. Oh yeah.
And I don't know how much I won by, but I think it was me that, I think I won it, and then I think Terry Kidwell, I think might have gotten second, and I just had a blast.
How'd you do in that first bank slalom?
I got third. I got more props from that than anything else I ever did in snowboarding, that's for sure.
I didn't actually race in the first bank slalom. It happened before I started snowboarding, but that event was what inspired me to start snowboarding. I remember riding up the chair and watching the guys go underneath and just being blown away by how cool and how fun it looked.
you can see in the footage, some of them, the guys that were good at it, Tom Sims, and Terry Kidwell, and Craig Kelly, they just kind of glided in the rut. They'll just kind of glide, keep their weight centered over it, and just follow it, kind of like a little track almost.
Here's Swanee. Got the ventilation on the tail end there.
If you look back and you look at the results of who has won the contest before, these are all people who have had really successful snowboarding careers who've gone on to do other things in the industry.
This might be Achenbach, yeah. His hair was all fuzzy back then. I don't know if he's still doing the same amount.
You know, I started my shop in 1980, the snowboard shop, which was the first snowboard shop in the world. And every year we're like, this year's going to be huge. This is the year snowboarding's going to take off.
In the first race, there were 4 or 5 of these guys. They drove all the way from Calgary all night to get to the Baker race. And so I kind of put Ken in that tidy little box as one of these crazy Canadians. And why in the world would you guys drive this far to do this contest?
The equipment was evolving so fast. The Sims crew would come up with their boards, and Burton would have their new boards, and we'd have our new boards. And so it was kind of a race, a technology race, and everyone would meet at these events, the elite in the sport, and we'd see where we were at, who had the ideas, or where the sport was going.
It was fun being at the time when everything was getting invented and everything was new, and you know, you knew everybody on the mountain. You could look at tracks in the snow and know that, oh, Craig's here because that's his style of turn, or that's Dan Donnelly's style of turn, Dan's here. You know, you could tell by looking at the snow who was actually on the mountain.
I feel extremely fortunate, personally, just to have been able to have been involved in the evolution of snowboarding, really, from the very early days when snowboards were only handmade in garages of friends.
This is a board that Eric built. I'm going to get a little more dust here for you. Here's the lighting system.
It was more about the soul of snowboarding and what was important about the sport in terms of the essence, the pure essence of what the sport was about.
Well, Baker was one of the big races of the year to everybody. I mean, even the guys from Vermont to, you know, Southern California, Colorado, it didn't matter. I mean, the Baker Bank Slalom was a race that was just different, it was unique, and it was, you know, it was one of the icon races, period.
87 was the first year that I came to the Bank Slalom. I missed the first 2 years. I was snowboarding and racing and stuff, but Avalanche didn't have any money, so they couldn't send me up here. And I didn't have any money, so we stayed in Tahoe, and then not till 87 did I come.
We had guys from California, of course, all the local guys, and that was about it, because really, there weren't a whole lot of people snowboarding back then.
After the 4th race, Duncan and I sat in the ticket booth, and he pulled out his bottle of scotch, and we sat there and, Bob, we got to talk about this. And so over a bottle of scotch, we figured out that it was time for me to hand the baton over. Amy and Gwen have done great things with it.
Just need to watch that section. Now we have over 300 participants in the event for 3 days, and we actually end up having to turn away about 450 people every year.
Then the bank slalom, it went from bank slalom to a legendary bank slalom.
It's kind of turned into this big family reunion where pro snowboarders, locals, just people from around the Northwest who have been, you know, coming to the race for, 15, 20 years now. It's kind of the one chance for everybody to get together once a year.
This is kind of like a place where people travel for thousands of miles to come to, just to see everyone.
It's just the camaraderie of the whole weekend. It's just, there's not a better place to be.
To me, it's kind of one of the most important things that goes on in snowboarding every year, and so that's why I want to always come back and be a part of it.
When you run into these guys, or when they run into each other, it's the brotherhood. And the Baker race is all about the brotherhood, or the clan, coming back together once a year and riding. Sorry, but that's means a lot, but that's what it is.
All right, so next, we're not quite done with the edges yet. Next, we'd use the file on them because we'd want to sharpen them up. And if it's really icy, then you want them really sharp.
The Baker Bank Slalom is a unique race. I've never seen anything like it in the world. I've heard of several other bank slaloms, but nothing has ever been like, you have to be at this race. And this one, this is the race that everybody wants to be in. The bank course is amazing. Like, you're up on the berms, coming down through the gullies, and you're weightless when you're up top, and you're zipping down the bottom, and you can feel gravity just totally pulling you down into the mountain.
You know, people are competitive. You know, they want to win. People are waxing their boards, you know.
Let's just say yesterday I had wax for -25 on it. I missed it by a little and I was dead last.
It's a timed event, which so much of snowboarding and skiing now are, the focus is on judged events, which is totally cool and spectacular. I think like the slopestyle contests and the half-pipe contests, the things those athletes are doing are just absolutely mind-blowing. With a timed event, it's nice, I think, for competitors to just go down, know that their time is their time.
It's all natural, bank slalom, you and the clock.
Very unique course. When you actually get to run it, especially on a year when the banks are deep and the snow is nice and soft, it is so much fun. You feel like you're pulling G's in the corner.
Everything's so quick, there's not a lot of, like, you really can't look ahead to see what's coming. You just kind of have to be there and in the moment and kind of stay on the board.
It's a leg burner. I don't know, maybe I'm getting older or the course is getting harder, but it seems to get longer every year. It's a leg burner for sure.
The course is very challenging. The times run between usually from 1 minute and 10 seconds to 1 minute and 40 or 50 seconds, depending on how fast or slow the snow is or how many turns the guys put in that year.
Never been down here before, but looking forward to going down.
About the bank slalom too is that you get all abilities, all levels of experience, and here I am explaining the course to some of the most experienced snowboard racers in the world. I mean, people who've been to the Olympics. And then I have kids come up to me and say, okay, so you go through the blue ones and then the red ones and then the blue ones. So when we design the course, we take that into consideration. I sit there and I go, okay, how is this going to challenge Terrier? And how is the next generation kid going to make it through this section? And that's a tricky course to set.
It's more of a head race than anything else. You know, it's not really racers do good or freestylers do good. It's kind of more of a head race.
It's kind of the best of snowboarding, you know. It's a course that is kind of made for snowboarding, really. All of them pretty much enjoy coming up here and, you know, focusing on riding, you know, the actual sport.
The bank slalom's unique in the sense that it's a true kind of snowboarding course, something that you would almost naturally do. And it's the roots of the snowboard and the snowboard turn and how fun it is.
not like a standard, GS or race course. It has the walls, it has the banks, it has just a great flow.
When you add the banks in there, then you just have a whole another technical feature to deal with, where you're riding up on the walls of the half pipe, but really carrying a lot of speed, not to the point of where you're going to die if you wipe out, but your feelings are going to be hurt. Since you never really know what kind of conditions you're going to get up there, you can kind of mix it up. Like you can take a wax for cold snow, take a wax for warm snow, and melt them together so you have like a 50-50 mix. Snow at Baker can vary a lot. Like one day you can have sunshine and fabulous powder. The next day maybe it freezes at night and you're dealing with ice. You get a little bit of everything there.
The weather is always a factor at the Legendary Bank Slalom.
We've pretty much experienced almost every weather conditions that you can have, and people have always managed to have fun.
It's a perfect day at Baker. Snowing, people all over the place, ready to race.
We've had the 3 days of pouring down rain, 3 days of just the most miserable weather you can imagine. We've had 37 degrees and mixed snow and rain and 70-mile-an-hour winds where we've had to shut down the entire mountain. We've had sheer ice and sunshine. We've had deep powder, 22 degrees and sunshine, and we've had everything in between.
That's also part of what is beautiful about Baker. It can be the most stunningly gorgeous place. Like you feel like you're close to heaven. And then it can just kick your ass.
So what's your favorite part about snowboarding, Sam?
Just riding down.
You know what? That's my favorite part too. Just going down.
That's specific though.
Bob Weber and I drove all the way from Santa Barbara to Snowbird, and his girlfriend would drive us up the road. We'd get out, and we came down. I did my first runs, and I've got pictures of it. I got my toe and heel turns coming all the way down the mountain. I had never snowboarded, ever. So my first run on a board I made before I ever even snowboarded worked. I mean, at the bottom, there's a picture of me. You'll see I'm like standing there with my Big Sims jersey on. I got the jersey here, I got the board here, and I'm standing like this just going, yeah! You know, I was hooked.
3, 2, 1, go.
I'm a snowboarder. I guess this is kind of my life.
I'm a skateboarder from when they had clay wheels and steel wheels, so when I saw a promotional film in the early days, it was like, that's it.
You know, my mom still snowboards and was planning to snowboard for a long time, so she's my inspiration because she rips and she's twice as old as I am.
When you run and slide on ice, the natural physiology of the human body is to turn sideways. It's not to square up like skiing. So turning sideways is the natural feel for a human body when you're sliding. I just like to watch the beauty of it, really. The amazing athleticism that's involved, the speed, the fluidity, all that comes together in a very unique way.
Powder absolutely is my favorite type of snow. It feels like flying. It really does. I've never surfed. I've heard that surfing is incredible too, but I think snowboarding and powder is the closest humans can get to feel like flying.
I mean, it's tough to get a great day of surfing. Everything's got to click, you know. The wind can't pick up, the tide's got to be right, there can't be too much kelp, and it's always crowded. But with snowboarding, you just almost always have a blast.
just the feelings you can get from it, regardless of what emotions you feel. Sometimes you might not have the best day, you have disappointment. Some days are just feel like you're on top of the world, and it's the fact that you go through life and have all these different kinds of emotions and do something like this.
For me, there's nothing like a heel-side powder turn on a snowboard on a deep day. It's like riding on clouds. The feeling that I get snowboarding on certain powder turns is that same, where you almost zero gravity.
I like that surfing feel, that free feeling.
The connection between skateboarding and snowboarding, and then surfing's influence, you know, just riding boards is, no matter where you are, is a great thing.
Hey, how long you been snowboarding? Since about 1980, something like that.
What got you into it?
I love it.
You use the mountain differently snowboarding. It helped me be more creative and just look at things in a different light.
I'm from Austria and I grew up in the mountains, so there's nothing else to do. If you want to play soccer, ball rolls away. Everybody who does it is a hero.
It's just inherently more fun than anything you can imagine.
I'm never going to stop snowboarding.
It was a total flashback for me to see those guys come through in the retro category. When Tom Burt came in his speed suit, I just about hit the snow. When I was 13 years old, I had a picture up in my locker of Tom Burt in that original speed suit.
My avalanche speed suit, you know, those are the coldest things. It's like the thinnest things I've ever worn in my life. It's nothing like being cold out on the snow. Speed suits used to be a thing that thought made you go faster, so you always wore them.
The retro race, well, it had to be for the 20th year. It was mostly inspired by my sister Amy, who had some of the very first handmade boards from Sims and from GNU, and we have what's called the history wall in our apartment here at the ski area, and it's a whole hallway lined with every snowboarded major evolutions in snowboarding from when she was racing that date back to about 1985 to present. And so you can really see the evolution of the technology, and we wanted people this year at the Bank Slalom to appreciate, because you start looking around at these kids in the next generations and all that, and they have no idea what no high back bindings are and soft boots and what it was like to ride with fins or anything like that, or maybe even some of them have never even seen that equipment. And so we encourage people to dust off their gear, and it came out of the woodwork, let me tell you.
The retro race today is, you know, bring your old board and wear your old clothes. I mean, this is what we wore.
And you got bonus points if you wore a day glow.
So Sam, you like going fast?
Yeah.
This is gonna be one fast board. My first board was the Craig Kelly Micro Air by Burton, 145.
Yeah, this is looking really good.
It was an awesome board, you know. I think that would be a good one for the retro race.
Our lawn in front of our house was Skateboard Central. Well, it became Snowboard Central when I started making snowboards, and the Snurfer hadn't come out yet. When the Snurfer came out in '67 with the rope on the front, we're like, whoa, who ripped off our idea? Well, no one had ripped off our idea. It was just a natural evolution. The snowboard would have happened no matter what, whether I'd build a board or not.
So has technology changed the ride?
It's only made it worse. It should have stuck right here.
The first board that I ever rode was a Sims Lonnie Toft plastic with this skate deck that's on top of it, the bungee cord to hold your feet on.
This is a Sims 1500 FE swallowtail. You can see the swallow here. That was the signature.
One of the original Burton, they call them a back hill. It's made for powder more than it is the slopes, because when we first started, they wouldn't let you on the ski lifts anymore. So we just carry it up and ride down on the powder.
A few locals came to my father, who's been the general manager here since 1968, and said, hey, this is really fun. Well, especially back in the 70s, we got all kinds of harebrained, hey, this is fun, contraptions showing up at the ski area. And his first criteria is, okay, is it a directional tool? For instance, an inner tube is not a directional tool, okay? And so he said, okay, well, let me try it. And got on the snowboard and went out there and tried it in some powder snow, and he said, this is pretty fun.
It was with a lot of these kind of boards. And they had the metal fins and the bungee cord bindings or whatever, and the old Burton boards. And at that time, Duncan was smoking these big old cigars. And so the 6 of us or so, we'd be lined up at the ticket booth with our boards. And Duncan would be in there with his stogie. And he'd, wait, I gotta look at this. And so he'd come out and he'd have this big old stogie and got the big old fins on the boards, right? And a couple up here and a couple back here, and they're all handmade. And Duncan, I remember him saying, God, with a big old stogie sticking out of his mouth, right? God damn it, you guys, you're gonna hurt somebody with those fins. I don't want you on the groomed runs. I want you in the powder. Yes, sir, we could do this.
We originally went down to the Bellevue Bike Factory and tore a pair of ski edges out of skis that my dad had, and had a guy down there router them and put them in for us.
Eric Galson, he was our manager. And when Sims would send up these boards, Eric could put the edges on them. Well, you can see here's the black. See, Eric could route this out and then screw on the metal edges and then glue in the black P-Tex. And so this is a mark of an Eric board.
So this was the first metal-edged P-Tex board.
My partner and I went to a skateboard trade show, and here's Jake in this little 10x10 booth with these boards. And he's sitting in the corner just kind of like this, And so we got to talking to him, and the neat thing is that these are Canadian hard rock maple laminates, just like a skateboard. And we're looking at this going, yeah, we could do this.
You hold the rope and you put your feet into there.
Oh, sweet! Sweet!
Each time I made a board, I made it better. I went out and rode it. So I'd ride it like in LA, come back and go, okay, want to change things. So I've got all that progression of boards that are all one-of-a-kinds. And most of them are solid fiberglass. And then 1980, Tom and I started making our first wood boards, which were laminated like skateboards.
Yeah, I knew the tail was cracking, but so cracked that. Blew that off in France on a rock. Technology's changed a little bit. I mean, they're still made out of wood. There's just more stuff around the wood, like Kevlar and fiberglass and reel bindings, and yeah, it's changed a little bit.
The pinnacle of progression, right here, 1989.
This is my first board, 17 years.
And you still have it?
Yep, kept it.
How come?
Because it was the first board I ever had. It changed my life.
A lot of these retro guys are still in the game, A lot of them are still very involved in the mountains and in the sport. They were all rebels with a cause back in the day when snowboarding started, and a lot of them are personally responsible for the fact that a lot of ski areas allow snowboarding now.
The guys who were snowboarding back then were just full hardcore because we had to hike so much. And everybody wanted to, get on a chairlift and be able to spend your energy riding the mountain.
The Mount Baker Hardcore, Mount Baker MBHC, Hardcore, which was really that original core concept of core boarding and non-commercial, and
MBHC, Mount Baker Hardcore. It was a group of guys, but it was even more than that. It was just our way of doing it.
When we first started, you wouldn't see any of this crowd. It'd just be 5 guys out, backwoods, and so we'd find a hill, bigger than that, and then, it'd just be open powder, and you just go.
Those guys were just a really cool group of riders, and they also had a real respect for the backcountry. Basically Craig Kelly, he pioneered backcountry snowboarding up there.
Jeff Fulton and Craig were buddies. Fulton kind of brought Craig into the whole deal, and Craig just went.
He was so much a level above everybody else in riding ability and as well as intellect.
Here comes Craig. Oh man.
I think I met, Craig Kelly at the bank slalom, and I was watching him run, and he had his trailing arm, which kept falling back behind him. I said, gosh, if that guy could just get his arm up here and not let it fall back, he wouldn't lose an edge so bad.
He's got it. He's got it.
So I put him on our team, and I got him, one of my boards, just like this one. And, he was our greatest team rider for a long, long time.
Craig Kelly played a significant role here at Baker just because he got so good so quick and started putting lines around the ski area that people hadn't laid down in ever.
It was just this whole new style that I hadn't seen before, and it seemed so innovative and everybody wanted to copy it.
He drew lines and pipes and that low power stance. But Craig had this flow and this magic about the way he rode. He made it look so easy.
When I heard about the avalanche that took Craig, it was just absolutely devastating to learn that someone that you look up to so much has passed on doing the exact thing that you loved watching him do.
When you're going up the lifts and you're looking at the mountain, think about Craig Kelly, because his spirit lives on in those mountains.
Those tracks the Mount Baker Hardcore laid down. You're not going to find them. You're not going to find them.
Number 12, mid-masters in the gate. Pat Shute first out, Scott Rowley second out of the gate.
You have to have the race running like clockwork, or else you'll be there till 6 o'clock at night with headlamps on.
It doesn't always go as planned.
Race ready. 3, 2, 1, go. People get in the start shack and some of them are shaking and freaking out.
I'm trying to not be nervous. Trying to think about just chilling out and visualizing the banks in my head.
It's interesting for me, to see the psychology of how 280 different people approach the race.
Are you stretching or praying?
Me stretching. Never praying.
Some of them get in there and they're just like, yeah, woohoo, whatever, this is great. Other people get in there and they're ready to puke. They're so nervous.
Jeff Hamilton, Tim Hollenbeck, Matt Baker, and Craig. 3, 2, 1, go.
You always feel a lot of pressure, like I gotta stay on my feet for the whole thing, because you know that if you fall, you're pretty much out. There's 200 other people that are right on your butt, gunning for you.
31 on the horse.
When I'm
through their course, you know, it's a wonderful feeling. But sitting up there in the gate, it's, you know, it is an anxious time.
Here we go, racer ready. 3, 2, 1, go. James Perez, hands on, laps it up, get organized, zip all your zippers, do all that kind of stuff. Runs up here.
What's the deal with that?
It's a horse to ride down the course.
I guess I got a tip that go high and then come back down to get the speed to go back up to the next pylon.
What you drawing?
I'm explaining to them how to run a race course.
Oh no.
Because they seem to be missing this gate down here on the BMD, which is the Bank of Mass Destruction.
And we wanted to challenge people with the man-made banks in the middle through the snake, the monster turns, the walls of mass destruction. And that was a maze. And it was a maze of turns that just kept coming at you, and you weren't even sure when you're going to really get out of it, and then all of a sudden you pop free, and then you had the 180-degree turn at the bottom.
Calling the shots from time to time. I thought we could make it, but maybe I was right. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Calling the shots from place to place. Thought we could make it, but maybe I was right. Yeah, yeah.
Here, I'll show you a trick. And you're mostly scraping with that part that's like between your thumbs, and I'd almost kind of like bend it. There you go. Back in the early days, there was a little bit of prize money for a couple years, but I thought it was a really good thing when they abolished the prize money, and it was just like, do you want the title or do you not?
And in second place, with a 147.56 from Golden, Colorado, Nikki Larson. Nikki!
One of the best parts of the first Baker race. At the awards, I'm standing right here, and there's a table right in front of me, and then Sims is right here, and Kidwell's right here, and Fulton, and Craig, and on, all these great people are right there, and they're just young guys. So here I am with these $20 bills, counting them out, one at a time. 20, 40, 60, 80, and all these guys are just looking like this, and here you go. You know, it was awesome.
We used to give away what was considered a significant amount of prize money. But then as other professional contests came online, the prize purses started approaching $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 in other parts of the world. There's no way the bank slalom could keep up with that. And so we made a shift, and we took on what we call the culture versus cash prize philosophy, where I do believe we're one of the few professional contests that offers no prize money for the pros.
Nowadays, they have this amazing artwork that they give out, which is nice. I have a really nice collection of art now.
With a 139.37 from Ketchum, Idaho, Darby Haney. Darby! And also at the same time, we started the duct tape trophies. And the infamous duct tape trophies, and yes, they are real duct tape. 3, 2, 1, go.
We pretty much lived by duct tape. That held our worlds together. Our cars, our equipment, our boards, our bindings, our clothing a lot of times.
I'm just stuck in this little hole back here. I have no idea.
I don't have any duct tape on my board, but I have duct tape on the liners in my boots to keep the damn things together, especially the back one, because the heel separates from there. There isn't a boarder out there that's worth his salt that doesn't have duct tape somewhere on his body.
How long you been riding?
15 years. That's a lot of duct tape.
The awards in the lodge, it's wall-to-wall bodies. Where else are you going to see that in the world?
First place in the retro division on an 85 Avalanche with no high backs and that red space suit.
other contests, you go because of the money, you go because of fame, or you go because of whatever. This one you come because you get to hang out with Amy and Gwen and, you know, all your friends, and it's 1985 all over again.
That's what the Baker Race is about. It's about a gathering of the clan. So. And I have to go up on Sundays just to make sure they're doing it right.
Bob Rogers!
If it wasn't for Jeff Fulton going to Duncan Howard all those years ago and saying, you gotta let us snowboard up here, we wouldn't be here snowboarding right now.
Thanks to Bob Barcy for organizing the first bank slalom with Tom Sims and the crew. There he is, Mr. Barcy. He was here. Oh, let's play.
It's nice to be acknowledged, you know, and that goes so far. But the fact of looking out and it's the same course, and this first turn is in the same spot every year, and the tree halfway down the course is still the same spot, and it's all a familiar place, and it's new riders and some familiar faces, but the thing is continuing to go on.
Good job, Sam. You're going to be an expert at this. I'll just give it a couple brushes, tip to tail here. All right, we're ready to ride. Gonna have the fastest board on the mountain. Thanks.
Go, go, go. Go big. Oh, yeah.
I probably made a dozen boards in the early 60s, and the whole reason I was making boards was so I could have someone to go ride with. But we were just, you know, hanging five and doing little turns and trying to do spinners, and it was so crude, and I didn't have any idea the sport was going to get so big.
It was just cool, you know, the evolution, because it was going in so many directions. I mean, I remember trying to get P-Tex, Tom and I trying to get P-Tex, and the ski companies were like, you guys are a bunch of knuckleheads, you know, and they were laughing at us when 95% of their business is snowboards. You know, ha ha ha.
My ulterior motive through that whole time was to spread the word so that we could buy lift tickets and go ride at the Pass or go ride at Stevens or wherever, and that was the whole goal behind the whole thing.
I remember in 82, 83, I remember going, oh man, can you imagine year 2000? Snowboarding is going to be huge. It's going to be giant. Skateboarding is going to be amazing. You know, there's going to be, you know, huge contests and everyone's going to be making $1 million. And you know, you're kind of doing it and you forget about that. Then, you know, year 2000, turn on the TV and it's tuned to ESPN. And I'm like, oh my God, I woke up in the future. It's like everything we dreamed of came true.
I think that what we did when I was in, in the late 80s and I was competing and snowboarding a lot, what we did for that time was totally progressive. We pushed the sport, to where it is now.
It amazes me when I go and watch the athletes that are out there and what they're doing.
It's gone to such a new level, and it's still going to stay. It's people just having a good time. They're out here for the snow and they're out here for the powder, and that's all there is to it.
Any boarder that's worth their salt knows Baker's the center. I mean, you can go to all these exotic places and all that, but the society of snowboarding, the center of it is at Baker. And I guess if there's a value in going to Baker every year, it's to kind of go back to the center and kind of relive some of those bad old days and see some good faces, and everybody's smiling. It's a good place,
This is the only real snowboard contest. I mean, all the rest of them are money contests or fame contests or something to prove contests. This is beyond all that stuff, like, this is real.
Regardless of whether you're a jibber or a powder hound or you're a retro or you're a next gen or whatever it is, Everyone comes here carrying a common enthusiasm, and so that's the common thread that will take us through the future.
That's actually pretty exciting for me, is to look at the sport and go, I have no clue what these kids are going to come up with next. You know, I have absolutely no clue.
Street play, the street play is on. There's room for dismay, violent overtones. Everyone was shocked, intrigued, and enraged. When the strangeness wears off, it seems so dull and overplayed. Street fight, take us in the street. Plastic bullets in the secretaries as they go eat. Lovers in the dark, when the grip is tight. And those who fight with love for the strangers loaded in the night.
When we go just to rain, I'm never ever gonna make it to the end where I'm supposed to be. But I'm trying so hard to go, and I'm tired, I don't know how. Hey, you can hold me tight, girl, let's go tonight. Hey, you can hold me tight, 'cause it's cold at night. But when we're going inside, don't know if I can go. Hey, you can hold me tight, 'cause it's cold at night. Hey, you can hold me tight, it's cold at night. But when